those of you that have been to events before, you guys know that I'm the non-scientist in the group, so everybody else cuts me a little slack. But when it comes to numbers, that's what I do understand, because I was trained as an economist. And so we look at numbers very carefully, and we need to understand not just what the numbers say, but what the numbers could be telling us and how they can act as a sign as we move forward. So what you see here, and it's a little bit of an eye chart, but again, you can see this information on the Flynn website. This is the 2015 data that was provided in the Bioscience Roadmap Steering Committee report that was put together for us by the Flynn. And what you see here, and this is extrapolated from a couple of different years, is that number 729. So today there are 1,411 establishments based on the baseline calculations that they're using. But when we started in 2002, there were 682. Okay, so that's pretty good real number growth. Jobs have grown phenomenally from about 67,000, which included the hospitals back then, to today over 110,000. Again, phenomenal growth. But we have a long way to go, because what we're not seeing is, with very few exceptions, and you're going to hear from one of those exceptions later this afternoon, but for many of our smaller companies, they fight and fight and fight just to stay alive, just to get that next research paper published, just to get that next opportunity to connect with someone. Now, here in the room, we have some organizations that made that journey extremely successfully, okay? CBR is a great example of a company that has made that journey. Ventana is a fabulous example of a company that has made that journey, and you're going to hear about Althera's journey later today. But for most of us, it's not that easy. And even the guys that have done it before and are now doing it again, right, Kent Dix, it is not that easy to do. So we need to figure out what we can do as our organization to actually take action. Because nothing gets done if you don't take action. So now I'm going to share with you a little bit about Arizona Bioscience Week. Pay attention to those dates and take a look at that website. I've made it really easy for you, okay? Arizona Bioscience Week, AZBW, azbio.org.azbw. Because this is our opportunity to address some of the things that you heard about this morning, to raise awareness, to address the need for capital, to connect with talent, and equally important, if not more important, let people outside of Arizona and inside of Arizona know about the life-changing innovation that is happening in our state. Operating in a vacuum does not move us forward faster. It just makes it harder and harder and harder. So part of that is building coalitions, and I'm actually going to share kind of a little bit of the strategy that the AZBio Board of Directors and our team went through as we tried to tackle this problem. So how could we gain that attention? How could we pull together everyone around something and do it quickly, not talk about it for the next 3 years? And so we went to an unlikely group. We went to the Arizona Senate and we said, we've got this idea. Let me tell you the story of what's going on here, because they had heard pieces and Flynn had done a fabulous job, but Senator Bartow, who is the head of the Senate Health and Human Services Committee, said, you know what, I'd like to tell this story, and I'd like to tell this story on the floor of the Senate. And what came from that was a Senate proclamation declaring that the week of September 18th, 2016 is Arizona Bioscience Week, and all of the things that we started to work on became a matter of the Senate record, and at the end, it says specifically that the people of Arizona should learn more, should come out, should engage, and should invest. And it was signed by Senate President Andy Biggs. So we started that process, we started the discussion, and then we started to talk to others and said, okay, how can we make this happen? And so we started to reach out to some of our friends. And so there's a group back east, which is actually kind of like AZBio, except it's got family offices in it. And these particular family offices, about 200 of them, do what's called impact investing. They invest in things that make the world a better place. And when you add up all the money they have to do that with, it's about $360 billion. And they are coming to Arizona to see what we have during Arizona Bioscience Week. I don't know about you, but I think that's pretty cool. Now, there's also our friends in Washington, D.C. And the National Institutes of Health have been instrumental, as has the FDA, in a lot of the initiatives that we are doing here in Arizona to move things forward. But for our small companies, as investors become more and more risk averse in our industry, which tends to be a little more complicated than just putting an app out on the internet, we need to have some help. We need to get those ideas just a little further along before we start going to raise money. And that's where the NIH comes in, and where the NSF comes in, and where the Department of Defense and the Army and the Navy, who all have what are called SBIR programs, or STTR when you're working in the university environment. These are programs that help move companies along. And quite frankly, Arizona is not getting its unfair share. Now, my godfather is sitting in the front row, and he told me, don't ever settle for your fair share. You always want your unfair share. Okay? So we have to work together to make sure that the proposals that we are submitting to places like the NIH are taking advantage of everything that we can possibly take advantage of. And what do they like? They like people that collaborate. Well, we're really good at that here in Arizona. They like things that are novel and not just rehashing something that's been done before. We're really good at that too. And they want to see people who are committed not just to doing the science, but to creating the products that at the end of the day will help people. And what I've learned in the 5 years of working here at AZBio is that's what we do best. So our friends at the NIH, they're coming, and they're going to be with us during Bioscience Week, and they're going to actually talk to people that have never had a phase 1 SBIR before and help them get ideas. And then they're going to talk about the people that have had these contracts before and aren't taking advantage of all the other free stuff you can get from the NIH, either because they don't know about it or they didn't realize that they could use it. So we're going to educate them. I love educating PhDs. It makes me feel smart. So they're coming during Bioscience Week. And then we get to tell our stories, okay? There are a number of people in this room. I see Jennifer Barton sitting 2 tables away from me, and others that have been honored with AZBio awards. We have the team at PADT, and specifically Eric Miller, who actually designed the iconic AZBio award. Just a side note, it's very dangerous to invite Joan to your company and say, how can we help? I will always give you a job. Right, Eric? So as we go forward, we're going to bring together the communities. And right, Greg has to do all the videos. Again, don't ever ask me if you can help. So during the AZBio Awards, we are going to use this as a way to tell our story not just to our normal crowd, which last year was almost 600 people. So if anybody was at the AZBio Awards, you remember it was when we were out in the cocktail area, it was standing room only. And that room was hopping. It's going to be even bigger this year because the Cavendish folks are also going to be here. And guess what? They're all invited to come. And we wanted to make sure that, as we put our best foot forward, we also had ways to pull in people that were outside of Cavendish. So I thought, who's a rock star in Arizona who's done phenomenal things throughout his whole life career, who would be a recognizable name to that community? So I went to talk to George Post, and I said, George, would you mind if we gave you the Life Science Pioneer Award for a lifetime of achievement? And I thought he'd say, well, let me check my calendar. He was like, oh yeah, I would love that. I said, oh, George, would you bring all your friends? He says, well, of course. I'm like, yes, we just made our network bigger. Because that's what it's about. It's me asking a friend, my friend asking a friend, and then we move the needle forward incrementally. You also heard earlier today about the White Hat Life Science Investor Conference. Now, people have said, how much money gets raised at investor conferences? Well, the reality is when you go to an investor conference, the likelihood that you are going to walk away with a check, unless it's something where they say somebody's going to win a prize, those are different kinds of investor conferences. But if you go to, JP Morgan, there is no runner-up prize, okay? You either go and make the connections you need or you don't. Right, Matt Likens? So as we go forward on that, White Hat is designed for serious companies to present to serious investors. And a lot of times people will say, well, I'm not far enough along yet. Well, remember I said, it's about who you know and who you connect with and who you see. So here's the trick. If I had a life science company, even if I didn't think I was ready for the VCs or the super angels, which tends to be the level up that we're attracting, I'm still going to put my application in for that, because then the judging committee, which is made up of VCs and super angels, just read about my company. I may never have another chance to get in front of them this year, but just by doing that application, I did. That's how you do it. That's how we move the needle forward. And all of those investors that are coming in for White Hat get to go to the AZBio Awards because that's the opening dinner. And again, we start to tell our stories. We start to bring it together. We start to help each other move forward faster. Now, my board of directors sat me down and said, Joan, you cannot be the central point for every piece of information in the state of Arizona. You can't keep connecting people. How many people in this room have gotten an email from me at one time or another that says, Martha, talk to so-and-so, or this person go to this person. Okay, if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, and oh, by the way, that happened last year, scared the pants off my board of directors. If those things happen, we have to have another plan. So we're automating, just like hospitals are automating. And we're partnering with a company called Jujima for a statewide partnering system during Bioscience Week. So every person who participates in any piece of Bioscience Week has the option of logging into that system and setting up a profile and connecting to other people. And if you're going to be in the same city, it'll even find a place for you to sit down and meet at a time that works for both of you without 16 emails. But equally important, it again gives us that opportunity to get discovered and to move forward. So that's just one more little piece of Arizona Bioscience Week. So making those connections and then working to keep them. And then the last part of this strategy is the first thing that we talked about this morning, which is talent and opportunity. Because if we don't have the people inside our companies to make our companies grow, then our companies won't grow. Okay, because companies don't solve problems. People do. Companies don't grow sales. People do. And companies don't innovate. People do. And so as we look at connecting things, as we look at bringing those things together, what we want to be able to do is have the opportunity for those talented people to also connect. So the AZBio Career Center, which is jobs.azbio.org, has been designed to be a single repository for all of the resumes and all of the jobs in life sciences in the state of Arizona. And I will tell you, because I've been doing my research, going from your company website to your company website to your company website just plain sucks. Some of them are pretty, they don't all work the same way, they're not all indexed the same way, they don't have the same criteria. If we were talking about any other type of thing where we were trying to attract something, okay, we would say, are you kidding me? But when we're trying to attract talent, which is the one thing we need more than anything else to grow as a community, we make it too hard. So the goal of this system is to put everything in one place so it gets easier to attract talent. And when somebody is trying to make a decision on whether they come to Arizona or not, and I will tell you, one of the biggest concerns that many of the companies have heard before is, well, if this job doesn't work out, where else do I go? Well, right now, there is no place that you can go and say, look at all of the jobs that are open in Arizona right now. It is time we built that. And the only way we can do it is to do it together. And then during Bioscience Week, we will have a statewide virtual job fair where everybody can connect and you can actually use the technology we've heard about today to even interview people over the internet. So those are just a couple of the things where the pieces come together because there's strategy. And because AZBio's board of directors, who are 31 very committed leaders who come from many of the companies that you've heard from, have said, okay, we've got to solve these problems, we've got to stop talking about it, we've got to start doing. You're here because you're committed to doing. We're setting up the framework to help you do, just as in 2002, Flynn began the process by setting up the framework for us to get started. We also have to plan for the future. During our initial, now 15 years of developing the roadmap, moving things forward, initiating the plans, we had some significant help from the state of Arizona. Proposition 301 provided the funding that allowed us to attract and retain a lot of the talent that, quite frankly, is sitting in this room today. And in addition to that, thanks to Representative Robson, we also had an infusion of investment capital specifically for infrastructure that built things like the Biodesign Institute and the Bio5 Institute and portions of the Phoenix Biomedical Campus and research facilities that are looking at deadly pathogens at NAU. Those dollars are gone. Okay, the buildings have been built, the buildings have been filled. And Proposition 301, if we don't figure out how to reinitiate it before it expires in 2020, will cause another catastrophic education problem from kindergarten all the way up through 20. So we need to start planning today. Now, I was hoping that I was going to stand up here and say, we got the state budget done, and here's what the money looks like going into the angel investor tax credit, into kids' care, into doing a lot of the things that we've been working with our contract lobbyists at the Capitol on since last fall. But we don't have a budget yet, so we don't have that answer. When we do, watch for You're in the Loop. I'll tell you what it is. And then we can figure out where we go from there. But if we don't start talking now, if we don't start building the coalitions, if we don't start coming together to figure out how we're going to pay for these things, we won't have a pipeline to fuel all the other stuff we're talking about. So those are some things that we need to look at as we go together. On your chairs, you have a survey. I'm asking you to do me a favor and fill out the survey. And here's why. 1 week from today, that board, my AZBio board of directors is going to come together, and we're going to make decisions on where we put precious resources, that's time and money, the same way that you do in your companies. And every single person in this room has an opportunity to share their view on the things that the board of directors is going to be talking about so that they can make better decisions that represent your needs. So do it. It's not hard. It's really fast. And if you do it and you turn it in at the reg desk on the break, then they'll give you a raffle ticket, and you just might win a picture or a free ticket to the AZBio Awards and get to see George Post come up on the stage and get that award, and also find out who won the Researcher of the Year and the Educator of the Year and the Company of the Year and lots of other cool stuff. But it doesn't happen unless you act. Today. And as we move forward, those are the things that we need to look at, that we will look at, and we will move forward. So don't forget, fill out that survey. You could win a prize. The odds are much better than a lottery ticket. Payoff's a little bit smaller, but AZBio events are priceless. But most important, take this opportunity, whether you are voting on Proposition 123 or just filling out a survey to let the AZBio board know what's important. This is your opportunity. So carpe diem, seize the day.